Who is Basil? Who is it? Oof. Ah. Basil. Scooby Dooby. How do I do that?
Hello. I'm giving everyone a chance to get in because some people were fighting to get in last week and didn't make it. And Hayley looks like she's having trouble, unless she's coming in on 2 different cameras, which is fine, if that's easier for you. So I've muted you all. So if you try to get my attention at the minute, you can either chat or you can do a crazy wave if there's something you want to ask me while you're waiting.
Oh, patch wait. Hello. Oh, am I mute? No,
That's it. Nice.
Oh yeah, you've got me. Hello. Hi. Where's Pat? I'm sliding.
Sylvia, Patch is behind you.
Oh, did you? No.
Oh, lost somebody. Tanya's having trouble getting in, I think. Are you in? You've done it. Well done.
Yeah. Can't see myself.
Dawn, if you can let me know everybody's in. When you can, just let me know, send a message or and just tell me when everybody's arrived.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right, if you could all do me a favour and just change your name to your first name and your dog's name. So if you're not sure how to do it, give me a wave and I'll do it for you. All right, Jill. If you just unmute yourself for me.
Dad?
Yeah.
Darling, how would you like to be called? Ooh,
Just Jill will be fine.
Down this, Jill. You don't put baby dog's name in there.
Poppy.
Do you want it on?
Yeah, that's fine. Don't start barking.
No. No.
So is everybody else, can you change it to your first name and your dog's name? If you don't know how to do it, give me a wave. Tanya, are you doing it?
No, Sylvia. No, someone else. Hey. Hi, Sylvia and sorry, and Patch. Can you hear me?
How to do what?
How to change my name.
Okay, Tanya, is it?
Where does it say that?
Well, my name's there.
So Tanya and
How are you? Okay. Good boy. Come here. Good boy.
She'll do it. I'll rename.
what's your little dog called, Tanya?
Alien green.
Yeah, where's a plus sign?
Isn't it?
And
And
Right, she's well. Everybody
Okay.
okay?
okay.
So go Angie first. You've done it. Angie's got it. You're on it. It's all right. You're sorted. You're sorted. You again. Okay. Who else hasn't changed their name yet? Rachel. Okay. Go on then. Talk to me. So you can unmute yourself if you just press the button. Hello, babe. What do you want to call yourself and your little dog?
It's Rachel, Martin and Basil.
Rachel, Martin and Basil.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Sammy, are you changing your own or do you not know how? Do you know how to do it? Is he playing?
No. Puzzle.
Come on, Baba.
No. All right. So we'll just make sure you're muted for me, everybody, and we'll get going. I think everybody is. Hayley's having trouble getting in. Hopefully Dawn will help her. Because she keeps trying to join. So we'll make a move anyway, because we're 5 minutes in. So, long lines. Oh, hello. Is that a question or you, yeah? Go on then.
sorry, I thought you said I hadn't joined, or is that a different Hayley?
Hayley Robinson,
Yes, I'm in. That's me.
still on the waiting list. You're in, so that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
All right, darlings. So let's make sure we've got you on gallery view. If you can't see everybody, you put yourself on gallery view. If it suddenly stops showing you gallery view, that's because I've put it on speaker view, because I've got that control. Okay, so don't panic. If you can only see me, it's just so I'm trying to make sure that the view is easier for everybody. So, long lines. Is it one of them or is it one of them? Oh, we got some sideways thumbs. All right, Hayley's all right. Sylvia's been using one for a long time anyway, so she knows the benefits. Jill, you're getting on all right with it. So anybody a proper thumbs down, hate it. Gritted teeth. You're all just about coping. Good. So it's really important we do prevent them from getting it wrong. That's what the long line's for. You're not going to be stuck with a long line forever, but the longer you resist using prevention, the longer it's going to take you to get a really safe recall. Okay, so it's one of those demons that you have to face. So we'll go into what we're going to talk about is a little bit of an extension. So there is a little bit of talking, but as soon as possible, I'm going to get you all moving. I'm going to get you all doing silly things. So going to share my screen, see if I can get it right this time. Should be that one. Okay, can somebody give me, I can't see you all now. I can only see a snippet of humans. But if you all give me a thumbs up if you can see the big screen and it should say recall games on it. So I've got myself set up, okay. All right, so here we have 2 of my babes. The littler one is Dodo, and his proper name is Querido, which means dearest, and he's from Spain. He wasn't abused, he didn't have any problems. He was born in a lovely English rescue centre or home. The lady runs the centre from her home. Had lots of attention, lots of lovely times as a puppy. Twiggy, on the other hand, she did have quite a rough start and required an awful lot of help to feel better. She's also from Spain, different rescue centre, different story entirely. But what they both have in common is they are both hunting dogs. They are bred to hunt. They are bred to chase. They are bred to look for prey, okay? Dodo has a double whammy in that he is a Spaniel cross. And if you've ever tried to share your life with a Spaniel, you'll know that Spaniels really enjoy hunting. So he's got a double whammy of that hunting gene. So they're my babes, and that means that you have to learn a really strong recall. But it doesn't always work very well, and I'm sure that if you're doing this course, it's because your recall's not brilliant. And it can go wrong, and the most likely reasons are these: that something is causing them to not want to come back to you. Okay, and that might be that something else is more interesting or more exciting than you, or it can be that coming back to you is either not reinforcing enough or it's actually been punished. And you might not actually be telling them off, but there are some things you could be doing that could be punishing that behavior of coming back to you. So we've got as the first one, the reinforcement problem. Is the dog actually finding it reinforcing getting back to you, or are you just, not again, don't ask me again? Is it that your breed is a particularly difficult dog to train a recall to, like mine could be? Somebody's not on mute, because I can hear some of the noises. Are you asking too many times? So are you becoming a bit of a nag? So that they come back to you a few times and they're like, hey, happy, and then they're like, but I'm busy, I'm doing this thing. Do you mind not interrupting? Is it that your cue has started to mean look at the environment for reinforcement? So have you started to call them away only when there's something that might be exciting? So as your dog started to learn, when you hear that person call, there's going to be something good. So start looking away from the person. Is it that you did it and you didn't really carry on practicing? You've got a pretty good recall, but you didn't really finish it off. You didn't keep going. Or is it that in those environments that you're trying to get your dog back in, have you not got a good enough motivator for your dog to want to? Oh, you've got competing motivators out there. Are you and whatever you're holding not as good as the female or the other dog's butt? Yeah? Are you just trying too hard? Some people are really doing their best. They're really practicing. They're really doing it. They're on the goal. They want to do it, but they're really just asking too much of the dog. Then they're doing it too much. All right. So I'm going to stop that there for a second, because I want to know, for those of you that were with us last week, did you do the little questionnaire about how many times you're doing it? And I want somebody to volunteer a little bit of information without, it's not a case of embarrassing you, but who was surprised when they did their numbers, how often you call your dog, how often it's really necessary to get your dog back to you, how often they actually come back to you. You remember those questions? So let's have a volunteer give us a wave. Be brave. Yeah, go on, Eleanor. You're always the good girl.
I certainly noticed after last week's session, I stopped recalling as much. And Hallie started looking back at me like, are you not going to call me? You normally call me about this sort of time. And then she came for a check-in, which was quite nice then, because that was positive without me having to call her all the time. She didn't check in as often as I thought she would. Even as the week went on, it was still quite sporadic, and my parents look after her a lot, and they kept count as well, and she checks in with them even less. So I still think I need to build up the check-ins as well, but I think it was a positive start.
Thank you for volunteering. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So, who's not muted? I keep getting some background noise, so somebody's not muted and I can't see who. Okay, so that's really nice, and it is really nice to do it, even if you're shocked and surprised at the numbers, at the results. What it does give us is a place to start. It gives us a reference point to check back against. Okay, so do be honest with yourselves and do fill out those questionnaires, and keep a quick note back for yourself somewhere where you can look back and say, even if you've only got a 40% improvement, it's an improvement. And remembering that your brain is geared to look for the bad stuff and to remember the bad stuff, we need ways of letting ourselves double check that actually there is an improvement. We are getting better. Okay, so let's go back to that screen. All right, so there's the reasons it might go wrong. What are we going to do about it? So we've got to remember that all of these dogs, even the tiniest ones, will have previous experience that's working against you. If your dog's already found out how good it is to ignore you, how they can extend their walk, if you're only calling them back at the end of their walk, going back doesn't make sense. It's going to be straight back in the car. Well, I might as well stay out here a bit longer then and avoid going back to my owner, because then I can make the walk last longer. Remember to think of the neural connections in the brain as pathways. And the more that we allow the dog to walk along the pathways into the direction we don't want them to go, the more that we allow them to practice staying away from us or running away from us or holding back from us, the more we practice chasing after them or calling after them, we're strengthening those pathways. We're making those into bad habits that are harder then to get rid of. So that's why we're putting them on the long line, to prevent those pathways from continuing to be practiced. All right. But it does mean we're going to make brand new pathways. That's where we're starting today. We're going to start teaching them how wonderful it is to want to stay with you, going to get their brains working in your direction. But what you've got to remember is when you are rewriting brain programming, just like with a computer, you're going to be needing to overwrite that previous knowledge, that previous information. So we're pre-programming is already there. It's already fighting against us. We need to train again. So it's not going to happen immediately. You can get some really good, really quick effects, but don't expect instant improvement. That's not what learning's about. Learning takes time. Okay, so here's a little thing for you to remember. It's a little thing called EAR, which stands for Emotion, Anticipation, Recall. Emotion, Anticipation, Recall. So what we're going to try and do here, we are going to try and catch the dog's need and love of calling back to you by building anticipation for your recall cue. Okay, that works. Once you've got it into their brain, it is going to work in spite of what else is going on around them. And this way, if we do it the right way, we can avoid becoming the distraction. In other words, the thing that they're learning to ignore in the environment. If we're constantly nagging and calling them, we become the irritation. We want them instead wanting us to call them, wanting us to make that recall sound. And we want to make sure that from the dog's point of view, There are always good consequences of coming back to the owner. All right. And you might be surprised to find that perhaps you're giving some consequences at the moment that the dog might not want to come back for. And if we can get it, and it is really, really effective if you do the practice that we're going to suggest, it's massively effective as a life tool to keep your dog safe, but also because a dog with a good recall can be more dog. They can have more of a doggy life. So I love it. Okay, just pause there a second. I'm going to get some feedback. Anybody got anything to say on that at the minute? Has anybody got an idea of things, having spoken to you last week? Anybody got an idea of things they might have been doing already that might have put their dog off coming back? Might have switched them off to recall. I'm going to tell you one that I definitely still do because I forget about it. All right, I'll be the one. I'll hold my hand up. Who reaches out to their dog to scrunch them when they get back to them? Who reaches out to try and grab at them, to catch their collar when they come back to you? Yeah. What's the physical response to that movement towards their head? What do you think is likely to make them feel like? Is it going to make them want to come closer? Is it going to make them want to go, oh, get off, weirdo, and pull away from you, and perhaps not want to come all the way back to you next time? Yeah. All right, go on then. We won't put you on the spot, other than who thinks they might have accidentally done that? Give us a show of hands. Yeah. Okay. So scrunging heads, not something we want to do. Okay. Where am I? Share screen again. And we're here. Okay. So that's what we're aiming at. We're aiming at getting the dog to think of us as cake and to associate us with our recall cue with good stuff. And this is what we're going to try and develop. This is called the reflex response. The brain works in two separate pathways. We have an emergency system, a system that works entirely dependent of the brain. Okay? You will see, if you look on YouTube, you will find videos of people missing getting run over by millimeters with cars that go out of control, and the person is already jumping out of the way. Within split seconds of that car having gone out of control, it's almost like a superhuman response. And that is your brain's emergency pathway, the reflex pathway being initiated. Your conscious brain, your thinking brain, your, oh my God, there's a car coming brain, doesn't have anything to do with it. And we can create a reflex response to our recall cue. It's like magic. We can have that emergency response, that instant non-thinking reflex response to the sound that we are going to use to teach them a recall. How amazing does that sound? Does that sound like, I'm looking at the little screen to see what your responses are? So if you imagine what we're talking about is when you reach out and you accidentally put your hand on something hot, do you think to yourself, oh, my hand is burning, I better take it off? Or are you already blowing on that hand by the time you've realized it's burned and it is no longer touching that hot plate? So you can imagine that's the kind of recall we want. That's what we're going to teach them, is don't even think about it. You hear that sound, bang, back to the owner. That's brilliant, and I love it. Okay. So reflex response, it's in the reflex arc, doesn't even hit the brain, goes straight from the sensors, straight from the dog's ear, straight to their motor reflexes. Okay, but until we've practiced that, then we don't have it. We have to practice it in order for the muscles to start to learn that emergency response to that sound. So they're the games we're going to play today. Okay, So here's the goal, isn't it? Creating that reflex response, that great big exclamation mark. When I hear that sound, I need to get moving, and it's movement that we really need to be reinforcing here. So we're going to try and program these little brains so that when they hear whatever sound you've chosen, your new cue or your old cue, if it was sort of working, then that's what they're going to do. They're going to go, and they're going to already be on their way back before they've had time to think about, well, I'm not sure whether or not it's worth it. You know, this is really exciting bit of stuff that I'm doing just now, or I'm on the trail of a fox, or I just saw a bird. We want that instant reflex response. So you should have got yourself by now a new cue. So I've got a picture of a whistle. It doesn't have to be a whistle. It can be any sound, but it's going to be the same sound that you're going to use throughout your training. So I can't look at you all, but I'm going to take it as read that you have chosen a new cue. You should already be preventing them from practicing going in the wrong direction and practicing ignoring you. You're doing that in two ways. You're using your long line, and you have not been using your cue that has been failing. We want to wait until we can get this new cue to work. So you've been waiting. You've just been waiting for the dog to check in with you, and you've been preventing them from getting into trouble using the long line. And we need a food reward that we can toss about and move around without it breaking up too much, without it getting too crumbly. Because if they're too busy picking up lots of tiny pieces, sometimes then you can slow down that reflex response. Okay. It's important how this cue sounds. All right. So it should always sound the same, but it's really important as well that you think about how it's going to travel. So will it travel through a windy day? Will it travel through your dark night? Are you able to make it into a long sound? Are you able to make it into a repeated, exciting sound? So for anybody who's interested, there's a book called The Other End of the Leash, and she investigates response to sounds and talks about how emergency calls are completely different to soothing calls. So we want to look at sounds that the dog naturally makes when it's in an emergency. It's calling to, so it's a puppy and it's calling to the parent dog. And it's, if you want to listen, there's plenty of videos on YouTube of puppies who've been separated from their mum. We want that kind of noise. Yeah. And the other thing to think about is, if you practice your recall cue as a kind of a happy cue, as a relaxed cue, what happens when actually you really need it and it completely changes? So think about practicing your recall cue as the same way that you would say it if you needed it in an emergency. And I know that can be a bit embarrassing when you're in public, practicing it when there's obviously nothing bad going on and you sound like something really emergency is going on, but do practice it the way you're going to want to use it. Okay, so we'll take a break, I think, because I want to just make sure you're all online. I want to hear what your cues are. I'm going to put you on the spot. So I'm going to start, because on my screen, Rachel and Martin and Basil, you're first up. So if you just unmute yourself for me, tell me what cue you've chosen.
It's boring. It's just here.
Fine. I quite like here because you can go high pitched, you can repeat it, yeah, and you can make it long.
Yeah. Okay.
So
You were
So-
mental.
it scared him. Okay.
It's coming
All
to you now.
All right.
I think you're in the final.
Oh, sorry, I muted you. I didn't realise you would carry on talking. So, Sammy, you're up next. Oh, can't hear you. Can't hear you. You might have to get closer to the mic. No, it's not working. No, don't worry. Type it for me in the chat. Okay, Eleanor, go on, darling. Unmute yourself. Tell me what you got.
Woohoo.
Woo-woo.
Yeah, we had to pick something that both me, my mum and my dad could say high pitched.
And can you say that in a panicked voice?
Woo!
All right, darling. It's fun and I like it. Do you know that Twiggy's is woo? That it's a really high pitch woo. All right, Jill, what you got?
Concentrate on Poppy then. I usually just use the boring one, come. I find that usually she does sort of check in with her eyes and things with that. She runs back sometimes. Well, actually, she runs back most of the time, doesn't she? Sometimes I use the whistle though, so I have a whistle as well, and sometimes I use the whistle. Now, should I just be using the one? She comes back on the whistle as well.
So my suspicion would be with that come is going to come in later as a check-in with me cue rather than a come all the way back to me cue. The whistle might work better as for this reflex response cue. My only drawback with whistles is what if you go out and you forget to put it on? You know, what if you've gone out and you need it in an emergency and you haven't got it with you, whereas you've always got your voice? The big benefit of whistles, especially with doggies like Poppy, who are spaniels, so their brain goes into the woodlands and they're gone. The big benefit of it is it cuts through. It's a very loud noise. It's a very distinct noise. So it doesn't tend to have anything similar in the environment. So Sylvia, if you unmute yourself.
Yeah, I've used two as well. I've used here, but here in the garden and in the house, and a whistle when we're out and about. And I used to use the whistle, show Patch the whistle, as part of the excitement of going out. And he would respond to that when he was still walking. That's all changed, as you know, and I've had quite a battle since. I'm a bit hesitant to use the whistle inside, except from if he's upstairs and I'm downstairs. But I think it's too close for him because he's so sound sensitive as well.
So everybody's an individual. If you feel that your dog is finding that recall cue punishing or they're disliking it, then absolutely you wouldn't practice it in that way. So if you're wanting to keep it, then you could change it. You can do a single without putting too much blow through, so you can get a single quieter sound. Yeah, so it doesn't last as long. When you're outdoors, when you go into your outdoors bit of the training, then you can start maybe to increase that sound, the length of it and the amount that you blow into it. But yeah, you have to consider, obviously, if you think he's got sound sensitivity to the whistle, perhaps even another cue. So have a think.
I think I'll give it a try, see how it goes. I have sometimes trained two cues in parallel and he linked them both. Yeah?
Not daft, dogs can. It's worth their while. They can learn anything they want to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Angie, can you reach? Bailey's doing a beautiful job of settling and we've just disturbed him.
We use come.
And what did you do your little questionnaire thing? Do you know what your percentages are on returns, if you like?
We had him castrated at Christmas, just before Christmas, and ever since then his recall's gone up massively. He's not distracted by the sniffing and wandering off as much, and he seems to be sticking with us and responding really well.
Remind me how old he is now.
He's 11 months.
So you still might have adolescence to go through.
Yeah.
So don't sort of settle on your laurels. Okay, but brilliant. I'm glad he's doing well. And Hayley and Nico.
Hi.
Lots of feedback.
Yeah.
That's a bit.
I think I've lost it twice somehow.
We just wait for them to speak.
Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, I'm using the word quick.
Like it. That's one of Dodo's. Dodo has several cues depending on what, because I'm not very good at sticking to single cues. As a dog trainer, I ought to be better. But one of my panic cues for Dodo is quick. And it can be there repeated, and it is a high pitched noise. It's easy to make high pitch. So I like quick. And you've been using that cue before, or is that your new cue that you've chosen for now?
It's a new one.
And Joe and Libby.
We've had great discussion about it, and I think we've just decided to go with woo, woo, woo.
No, and I need to see that. I do. I need to see a bloke saying woo, woo, woo. Really... Okay, fantastic. I love it. I will look forward to it. And Tanya and Jess. Oh, can't hear you. You're silent. I don't know why. Maybe you need to be closer to the mic, because I can see you've got earphones in. You might have the same problem that Sammy's got.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
No. Oh, well, don't worry. Don't worry. Do you know, I had the same problem when I first started doing the online training. I borrowed somebody's hand-free microphone, and it was cutting out all the time. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. I gave up with it, which is why I have to just shout at my phone and keep everybody muted. So you can, Pupster, is that you? No, Sammy and Ortiz Pupster, you can type in the chat. Can you find your chat box? So if you click on your own, and you should find at the bottom of the screen, you should find there's a chat icon. Are you on a phone or a computer? All right, we'll leave you to think about that, but you can type your cue in there. So I use come and a whistle, so you've got two as well. Yeah. So have a think about it as we go through it. You may decide that one's stronger than the other. You may decide to have one for certain circumstances and another one for just telling the dog that you're changing direction. All right, so let's get on to that again. So what do I mean by repeated cues? So I've already said that we want to choose a cue that we can repeat. All right, this is different. So when I mean repeat, I mean if I have called my dog and they are on their way to me, they've already given attention to me, I'm going to use repeated cues as a bridge to keep the excitement going. So if I've called my dog and that cue might be, I'm trying to think of one I haven't used with anybody that's in the room because they're all behind me, and I'm going to fail, so somebody's going to get really excited. So if I use woo, then I might, as she turns towards me, I might go woo. Near they are. That was kind of predictable, wasn't it? What do you want, mummy? Yeah. Okay. So, but a repeated cue is when you've called them, but they haven't already turned around, they're not already on their way to you, and you are just nagging. So from the dog's point of view, they become irritating. Yeah. If you're repeating your cues every 5 or 10 minutes and you're interrupting the dog's walk and there's no good reason to be calling them back, then they're irritating and they can learn to ignore you. They'll learn to say, oh, not again. No, I'm just going to do this. And the other thing we can quite often get wrong is we can get into the habit of calling the dog. And when they come back and they go, oh, what do you want? And we just go, oh, it's all right, thanks for coming back. And you wander off again. And the dog's like, well, I just left the best message ever. I was talking to this dog and I came all the way back to you and I get this, you know, why should I bother? I'm not going to bother next time. All right. So we don't want to become the distraction. We don't want to turn into the nag. We want to be the main attraction. And here's the biggie. Don't touch them. Don't touch them. When they come back to you, don't scrunch their head. They've come back for a bit of excitement. Now, if you've got, and some dogs, and I do have one, when they come back, they really do want to roughhouse with you. They really do want to be touched. If you've got that kind of a dog, then this bit doesn't apply to you. But most dogs, if they come back to you and you grab out towards their collars and you grab out towards their head, they're going to want to hold back from you. So no patting, no touching heads. It's all about the food, or if you're using a toy as your reinforcement, then it's all about the toy, and that's going to go on the ground. So the dog doesn't feel like you're trying to catch them. We don't want them to be suspicious that you're trying to get hold of them. Okay. Here's the games. Yay! And I love this picture of this little dog because that looks like a fabulous recall, doesn't it? Stole it off the internet. Can you imagine with your ears flying and everything? Love it. Where's that dog going? It's only going in one direction, isn't it? It's going straight towards that person with the camera. I can imagine by the time it got there, that person landed upon their back with the camera in the mud. That was properly full on exciting. So here are the games. These are the games we're going to practice tonight. These are the 1, 2, 3 recall games, and this is Kay Atwood's design. So if you want to look up Kay Atwood, you're welcome to. And these games are all designed to build that reflex, that instant reflex response to the cue, to build up muscle memory. In other words, when you hear this sound start moving, yeah, we want the muscles to know without any brain involvement, without any thinking. We want the muscles to know that sound means go. All right, so the first one we're going to do is called the runaway recall, and these are the important bits here. Say it, say your cue, then move, and then feed. 3 separate things. So that's one we're going to first of all. So the sound starts to mean move. Yeah, the brain forms a reflex response arc to that sound. The dog starts to anticipate you making that sound. They start to get excited about it. They start to focus on you more because you might make that sound again. They're building muscle memory because every time that sound happens, they need to move to get to the treat. And when they move towards you, you get excited and it's reinforcing to you. So you're going to want to do it more. Okay. And here it is. We've done a little diagram of it for you. So we're starting here. It starts with you standing still. You make sure the dog knows you've got something good. You wait for them to look at you. When they're looking at you, you say it. So you keep your feet still. No movement. We say it. So you say whatever your cue is, and then you run. When they catch you, the food goes on the floor. All right, so Dodo and I are going to do you a quick demo, and then you're all going to have a go. So we'll just get rid of some dogs. You go out that way. So we've got a little bit, tiny little room, not a lot of extra space in the room. Move you down here a little bit so you can see, hopefully see a bit more. Hopefully, if I can balance my phone without dropping it. tiny bit more. Okay, so here I am. Here's my reinforcer. I've just gone to get it. It's available. It's in my hand, but I'm not doing anything. I'm waiting for him to look at me. And when he's looking at me and he's paying attention, I say it. Here! And then I move. And then I drop the food on the floor. Wait for him to look up. Here! Move. Food on the floor. Wait for them to look up. Here! Now, what you should start to see, and I've not moved my screen, I'm being a loony. Let me just do that all again for you because I forgot to do that. I do apologise. All right, so he looks up, I say, here, I move, and I drop that food. Wait for him to look again. And you should start to see him startle. You should see his body go, yeah? So here he is, he's looking, and I go, yeah! And you should start to see your puppy start to move almost before you do. So, you know, we're talking about that reflex arc, that reflex response. We're trying to get them to the point where the sound means move. Does that make sense? All right, so we'll put you on gallery view. I want everybody to have a go all at the same time. If you can manage to do your, hello, Helena. Go on then, tell me something.
Hallie often picks things up from the floor that she shouldn't, and I'm trying to discourage eating from the floor.
Fine. So it's really important that the treats go on the floor. All right. What you need to do is make sure you've got a clean space where there's nothing to go after. And I promise, if you're practicing this in the right way, you will become more interesting than all of that other stuff.
Right, okay. Thank you.
You can set up your environment so you can't practice that thing that you don't like. All right? Okay, so everybody, I'm going to watch you all, see how you're doing. So don't worry if they're a bit slow to begin with. Just wait for them to look up again before the whole thing starts over. Call first and then move, and then when they get to you, food at your feet. So right at your feet. Don't worry if they're a bit slow, because to begin with, it has to get going. Now, if Patch isn't sure, things that we might change is we might change the motivator that we're using. So for some dogs, you might need a different food, a special food that they only get when you're practicing recall, that's their favorite thing. For some dogs, you might need a toy that you only get out when you're practicing recall and don't get it any other time. And what you should be seeing is you should be seeing your dog kind of do a little every time you say it. So exciting. And you should see that they're quicker to give their attention back to you. So they're quicker to look up after they've eaten the treat. Is everybody happy at this point? Take a rest because I've had you running around. Is that a thumbs up or a thumbs sideways or a thumbs down? Thumbs up. Yeah? Is everybody seeing their dog being quicker to give their attention back to you and focus on you? Is everybody seeing dogs with smiley faces? Really important that they enjoy this. Quite often, the way that some dog trainers used to train recall, you would get dogs who would come back. They'd come back, you know, they would be doing it. But I swear, you'd get a recall that looked like this. You'd be like, I'm coming, yeah? And they'd come in really low, yeah? And especially, well, we'll do a traditional recall, an old-fashioned recall for you. So where can I put him? We'll put you over there. Sit, wait, come. Okay, now where am I in relation to him? He's at least a foot away. Okay. So that's a traditional, you must sit before I reward you. It's not coming all the way back. He's a bit slower. Whereas if we do the reflex recall, he's quivering with anticipation. His body's going, she's going to say it any minute now. Okay. I've just changed my recall cue. I told you I'm not good at sticking to one. And he's moving before me and he's wanting to get straight back to me. Okay, you've had a rest, do it again. Come on, get off your butts. Told you I'd have you moving this week. Same again. Say it, do it, feed it. Leave it down. Go on, get off. You can't have them. They're mine. Oh, I know, it's exciting. Okay, beautiful. Take a rest. We're going to go to the next game, game 2. So, here we go. So that's your runaway recall. Game 2 is called Dodge and Dive. There's a monkey on my table. Game 2 is called Dodge and Dive. Okay, and it goes like this. It's not a game to play every single time while you're doing your recalls. It's a game to play every now and then to build up focus and anticipation. And it is quite tiring for the dog. Okay, so here we go. You keep your feet still to begin with. You're only going to move your upper body until the dog looks at you. So we are dodging and diving. I'm going to show you what that means in a minute. We wait for them to look. Then we say it, do it, feed it at your feet. So it's the same, this bit's the same as the last bit. Yeah, we're just changing this bit here. All right. So here we go. I've remembered to put it on the right view again this time on top. So what does a dodge and dive look like? We keep our feet planted. Feet aren't moving, but the rest of you is. Look at what his body does. Yeah, I might go that way, or I might go that way. All right, and then I'm going to dodge, move, and feed. Dodge and dive, dodge and dive, dodge. And he doesn't know which way I'm going to go. So that builds up that excitement. It builds up that focus. So that's your game. Everybody understand it? Everybody happy with that bit? Anyone want to ask any questions? Are you ready to just go for it? Oh, Patch, bless you. He says, weirdo human. He's happy though, he's got a waggy tail going. Eleanor can't get away from Hallie. Basil's definitely enjoying it. Doesn't understand it, but he's definitely excited about it. Bailey is not going to take his eyes off you. Oh, says, I thought you threw a piece over there, Bailey. And Jess says, just do it, Mum. Just do it. Stop messing about. So we've got to remember to still do cue. You say it, and then you do it, and then you feed it. So the cue means I'm going to move, chase me. Beautiful. Take a rest because you're working your little socks off. Okay, so that's an every now and then game. It builds anticipation and focus, so it's a little bit of fun. It can be a good way once they're back with you, if there's something going on in the environment, you don't want to release them to go and play again straight away. It's a good way of keeping their attention on you for a bit. So we quite like that, don't we? Who liked that one? Is that a thumbs up? Let's have a look at the gallery view. Thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down, wishy-washy. Yeah, Patch wasn't all that bothered about it at the moment. But it doesn't mean to say that it's not going to work for you once he gets the idea. He's a little bit of a nervous person, which means that you acting weird, he's not completely sure about. But the more he gets to trust that actually it means something lovely is going to happen, the more it will be fun for him. Yeah? Okay, let's go to the screen share again. So that's dodge and dive. Okay, so building anticipation. Don't know which way you're going to go, don't know when you're going to go, when you're going to say it. I'm going to watch you just in case, and whoo, off you pop. All right, and then say it, do it, roll it. So instead of the food going straight to your feet, this time when they get to you, we're going to roll the food away from us, which means that when they've got that food, they turn around, they start to move back towards us. We can do our cue while they're already in motion. So this really builds muscle memory. It's a chase. It's a little tiny short chase. It's only a couple of steps at the moment while we're training it, but it is a chase from the dog's point of view because they're doing something away from you. They hear that cue. They need to reorientate back and get back to you as fast as they possibly can. This produces one of the best reward hormones in the brain. So it's not just that food that you're giving them that's reinforcing the recall. It's also the brain is rewarding the recall. And when you start to do this, you may even find that your dog doesn't bother to pick up the food because they're too busy trying to get back to you. Okay, so here's the little diagram for you. We're standing still. We're waiting for attention. We say it once we've already got eye contact. We run. We wait for them to catch us. And then we roll the treat away from us. All right, so we'll show you that. Oh, in my little small space. Okay, so here I am. I've got treats. Just check. And he's looking, and I'm going to. When he turns around, oh, he's gone under the cupboard and he got there first. Okay, so I can't move away from him very far because of the space that I'm in, and I need to keep him on camera for you. But you do a little run after you've said here, the same as the previous. If you've got the space to practice it, do as soon as you've called, do a little run. Remember, while they're eating, don't call until they've turned around and they're already looking at you and moving towards you. If they aren't moving towards you, stand still and wait. So you go back to that little diagram. Oh, okay. So we start with a standstill. If we've rolled it and they come straight back, then we've already gone straight to this one, haven't we? But if we've rolled it and they're busy and then they wander off, we're going to stand still. So we're going to take the grey arrow, stand still and wait for that look again. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, let's have a look at you all. Let's see you do that. So say it, do it, roll it. So if it's freaking Patch out, just take a seat and watch and practice in your own time. Go at his pace, because we don't want to set him back. You know, he's doing so well with everything else. We don't want to freak him out.
Can I just say something? I'm getting the wayline. He's down here by my side. He was really relaxed initially. Now I'm getting the wayline from him, and as if he's saying, "What's the point?" This is all the wrong kind of environment. I've never done it like this before, so it's all unfamiliar.
Yeah, and again, you need to adapt everything to each dog. He's already got issues that you've got to take into account. But do it. Find out what his best motivator is. Do it in places where you know he's more likely to be happy. Cues. He doesn't feel pressurized, because he's got a real big issue with being pressed, doesn't he? He gets weirdo. Why can you not just start to work
Going on.
at his pace. All right, happy people. Tell me what you thought of that little game. Did anybody see their dog start to set off back from the treat before they'd even got it? No, not yet. You will be surprised, because it will start happening. All right, so we'll move on. Just finish this bit. Oh, I don't know what I've just done. Oh, didn't press my share screen. I just went straight for the thing. Doesn't work that way. From current slide. Oh, there we go. Can you see that all right? Give me a thumbs up so I know I've hit the right buttons. Fabo. So we can combine all three. Once the dog's starting to respond well to all three, so obviously for Sylvia and for Patch, we wouldn't go to this stage yet. But by combining all three, you're going to make yourself even more unpredictable. You're going to make yourself even more exciting. So this builds more anticipation. Yeah, and you can combine them any way you like. But I thought it would be really good fun to do a little diagram of what it looks like when I try and combine them in a kind of a flowy chart for you to have. And obviously you get a copy of this. So we start always with standing still, making sure that the dog's already focused on us. We're going to say it, do it. So this is a run. Wait for them to catch up with us. Treat at the feet. Do a little dodge and dive. Wait for them to look while you're dodging and diving. Say it, run, roll it, and then you can start over wherever you like. All right. So just for fun, I'm going to see you go out there now, and I want you to mix it up. Right. So the most important things are, don't say the cue if the dog isn't already looking at you. If they're not already giving you attention, don't waste a cue. Because if you say it and they're not watching you and they're not listening to you, they're practicing ignoring you. Okay. So make sure they're looking before you say it. And sometimes you're going to dodge and dive. Sometimes you're just going to move straight away. Sometimes you're going to put it at your feet. Sometimes you're going to roll it. So you become more interesting, more exciting. They want to. And for Patch, if he's upset, Sylvia, just calm him down. Just relax with him. Just sit on the floor. Just don't keep pushing and pushing, because, you know, we know he doesn't cope very well with that. You can practice slowly at his pace. Do it when you've got time. Oh, bless him. He says, oh, me babe. I can't hear you because you're on mute, but I assume you're telling me that he's just not, he's done, he's finished, he's had enough. Yeah, no. Oh, look at him, he's so cute. Says he's stressing me out, Mum. He says I have to shake off and everything. Why am I wearing a harness? Oh. Okay, so if you find that your puppy's getting overexcited and they're doing behaviours you don't like grabbing at you or jumping up at you, then you slow it down. You don't move as fast. You walk instead of running. Yeah, you keep all the other elements the same, but you make your body language quieter. So if they're starting to get overly excited over jumping, so we want the excitement related to us, but we don't want them getting into a completely frantic frame of mind where they're not learning anything. They're just full of chemistries, you know. All right, take a seat, rest, rest, rest. You having fun? Are you all tired? Bet your dogs will be. Because not only are they using their physical bodies at the minute to chase and to follow, they're doing a lot of brain work. This is really tiring for your dog. So even if you're not getting a full walk, if you're doing some practice in the house, in the garden for your recalls, you might find that they're already a bit tired. And it's already, you know, I don't really need all of that other stuff. Can I just take a break now? Okay, let's finish off this bit. Woo. So that's combining. You can combine them however you like, as long as you remember the elements. The wait for looking at you. Don't say your cue unless your dog's already giving attention. All right? But the things you can change, sometimes you're just standing still, sometimes you're just dodging and diving, sometimes you've got treat at the feet, and sometimes you're rolling it away. All right? So they're them bits. They are tiring. Don't overdo this. And I know we have to do a lot because it's a training session and I can only have you for this hour. But I only want you to do 2 minutes per session. And I only want you to do 4 or 5 sessions a day. But I do want you to practice every day. All right? If you do it too often, you'll put them off. The dog will start to get tired of the game. They'll start to, oh, not again. Yeah? We want to keep them going. What do you mean we're stopping now? What? No, let's do some more. We want them listening for that cue. We want them wandering around going, is she going to do it? And she just, yeah? Build anticipation. Let's get this dog wanting to hear us saying that cue. Okay, do's and don'ts. If you practice chasing your dog, even when you're practicing in play, they are learning that they are faster than you. That if they don't want to be caught, they can get away from you. On the other hand, if we teach them that they can always catch us, you're talking about this hunting species, this species that were originally, a long, long time ago, their genetics are wolves, you know, chase it, catch it, eat it. So getting them to do chase is a very reinforcing behavior all on its own without getting anything when you finally get there, just catching the human. And it's always rewarded by the fact that, let's face it, there is not one of us who is going to be faster than your average dog. I know I certainly aren't. Okay, don't ask them to sit. I think that's a bit like a slap in the face. You know, they've come all the way back from something that's amazing. They've made that effort to come all the way back, and then you say, sit. I'm like, you what? Eh? Plus, we want excitement and energy. We want movement. We don't want them coming in and now you can sit. Oh, okay. And for some dogs, older dogs or certain breeds, sitting is hard work, and getting back up again after a sit is hard work. So it could actually be a punishment. Don't use your recall cue unless your dog's already looking at you, because if you go calling and calling and calling and your dog is busy, their brain cell is engaged elsewhere. You know, they only get one, bless them. And if it's already busy and we're just making this noise in the background, they're learning it doesn't mean anything. So wait till they're already looking, say it, do it, and then reward it. And why are we placing the food into, not placing it into the mouth, placing it on the floor? We want the dog to come all the way to us. And even for some dogs, reaching out the food towards them is going to be enough to make them want to back away. So it goes right between our feet. Now, if your dog, if you seriously don't want them to eat food off the floor, you have to bend all the way to your feet to deliver that treat. You have to get your hand right down next to your feet to deliver that treat. Don't be stretching out towards them, because where you reward them is where they're going to want to come back to. And don't touch them, you know. Oh, can you imagine if every time you just got yourself all dressed up and neat and tidy and you were in the best mood ever and I came over and I scrunged your hair? How irritating. You wouldn't like me very much. So this is the end of this one. I've run over a bit on this one. So next week we're going to talk about more games to increase focus. But for this week, your homework is keep that long line on at all times. Somebody did ask, can I go off lead if I'm in certain situations, certain environments? Well, if you're doing that, then you can't really practice your recall, because what if you call and the dog says no? It's more exciting. So you might be wasting a recall cue. You might be having them practice ignoring that cue. Practice your 1, 2, 3 recall games 4 or 5 times a day. But what I want you to do is I want you for the first 2 or 3 days to only do the first game. And then I want you to add the second game in on day 4 and 5. And then I want you to add the third game in on days 6 and 7. And then you can start doing your mix up. Only for now, practice in the house and not in the garden and not on your walks. Now, why is that? Well, we're thinking about situations where the dog's more likely to get distracted, where they're more likely to have trouble hearing that cue and responding to that cue, where they're more likely to have something run aside them. Now, I've put in brackets, if you've got a garden that's miles away from anywhere and it's really quiet, then I would think that's okay. But if you've got a garden where somebody might be walking past with another dog or whatever, then don't practice it there either. So that's for the first week, until you can see that reflex response starting to be built, where you can start to gamble and bet on the fact that if you said it out in the wild, your dog wouldn't be able to ignore it. And we're always still now going to carry on getting those check-ins. And when I mean getting, I mean rewarding when they happen naturally, not begging, nagging, trying to tease them with food to come into you. Let them have doggy time. Let them go sniffing. But if they look at you, they're the best doggy in the world. Even if they don't want to come all the way back, smile at them, nod at them, notice that they've looked, tell them thank you. All right, so that's week 4. There's my little, please tell everybody about us, because Little Tykes is always on a knife edge, especially at the minute with the COVID. And we're just going to make sure we've got no wiggly hands. Does anybody need to ask any questions? Hello, you. There you go. So that's for Joe. You can unmute yourself.
The rewarding the check-ins, is that just on a walk or is that all the time?
Time, I think you might want to start drop it if it depends on the dog is the answer. It depends on the dog. If you've got a dog who's a nag and they're constantly following you around and poking at you and saying you haven't looked at me recently, then you might want to start drop it in the house a little bit. Yeah, so if you've got a dog who's constantly asking for attention and it's not appropriate in the house, then maybe you could stop practicing in the house a little bit. But make sure, especially where you're in any situation with distractions, that you're definitely going to keep rewarding it. If you've got a dog that's a bit disconnected from you, doesn't really keep an eye on you, then I would be reinforcing them in the house as well. Does that make sense?
Important. It's just sort of saying hi to the dog and looking at it and smiling and waving.
Occasionally taking them and saying, oh, you're looking at me, I love it, and let's go to the treat cupboard together. You know, it doesn't have to be fun, but sometimes you're gonna say, oh, I'm sorry, do you want a cup of tea? Which is what you would do with a friend. You know, if you'd been reading your book or been watching a movie and you realize that you've been not giving attention to somebody and they were trying to get your attention, you'd be like, oh, do you want a bit of cake? You know, you'd make it up. So let's think along those lines. Does that make sense?
Yeah, fantastic.
Any other questions before we sign you off? Hello, Tanya. Go on then.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I've got a dog that's already that on the long line. Is already at the end and trying to pull because she's used to chasing things and chasing a ball. Should I be pulling her back because she's not looking at me back? What should I do?
This week, I'm also going to send you an additional freebie, something extra. And this is a little technique called the rucksack walk. And this is an engagement game. And Sylvia's nodding her head because she already knows about it. Okay, so the rucksack game is going to make the dog feel like they want to know more. They want to know more about you. They want to engage more with you. They want to be involved more with you. Okay, look it up because I'm in the middle of editing it and stuff, so you can go find it for yourself. You can look up the rucksack game, and basically doggy rucksack that you're going to pack that's always got their bestest toy, the toy that you don't let them access except when you're going to play stupid games with them. It's got their favorite treats, and it's got something that they haven't seen before. It's a new something, and that doesn't have to be anything special. It can be, you know, a post-it notepad. It's just something that isn't usually in the rucksack. It's not something they've seen before. And then what you do is you find somewhere to be where there's not too many distractions. So the corner of a field where you've got a hedge where there's a corner space behind you. So you only need to worry about what's in front of you. Yeah. And you bumble walk, you let them sniff, you let them do their thing, and you're kind of holding on to the long line so they can't get into any real big trouble with it anyway. So you know you're safe. Yeah. And what you do is you find a space, a bench or something to go and sit down on, or you take yourself a rug or something. It's not so nice to do in the winter time. It's much more of a summer game, but you can do it if you wrap up warm enough. And you start rifling through the rucksack. Yeah. But you're not just going to bring stuff out. You're going to be inside the rucksack properly. And you rustle it. You stick your arm in it and you really make a big deal. And you bring something out and you make a big deal of it. But you don't, the dog starts coming over and you go, and you took it away. Because you're, oh, it's mine. Yeah. And eventually you bring it out and you show them a little bit, but it's yours. So you're not going to give it away. And these dogs then start to say, well, what you got? Let me see. Can we? Yeah. And eventually you're going to start sharing bits of food or sharing a game with them and getting the new thing out. You make a real big deal of the new thing, new smell, new object that don't normally get. Imagine it's a baby duck. That was Steve Mann's explanation of it. Imagine you've got a baby duck. It's not a real baby duck, but imagine you've got a baby duck and you're getting a baby duck. Oh, hi. Oh, and you look at the dog and you go, oh, baby dog. Like this, yeah? And all of these games, the dog starts going, what you got in the sack? What you got in the sack today? Going to follow you around. Are we going to stop yet? Are we going to do the sack game yet? All right, so it builds that engagement. It builds that fun. All right, so feel free to look it up while I'm busy editing the bit that I've got. Any other questions with any of this week's? We're all relatively happy. Give me a happy face, thumbs up sign, so I know that you're fine, and we will see you next week. If you're worried, you've got any questions, email us. You should have the email address by now. Is that a wave goodbye, or is that a wave I want you? What do you want, Eleanor?
Just quickly, I've been struggling on walks to manage the long line, the toy and the treats all in my hands. How would you recommend? And then so I've been practicing gathering them up, but like when she comes back to me, she comes back so fast, I'm focusing on rewarding her, but then she's got all the long line that was out. Yeah. So I'm struggling to bounce off it. Yeah.
With Hallie, because I know her, fairly soon, you're going to get to the point where you're going to start trusting her to trail the line. So that's going to be one issue that you won't have so much of. Okay. Until then, you kind of do your best. Yeah, you're not going to be perfect with it, but we do need it there so we can prevent them from getting into trouble. You know, if we've got a dog that's not got a really, really safe recall, we didn't ought to be letting them go, except when we know that we've got a really safe recall. Is that away from Sylvia as well? Go on then, darling, unmute yourself.
Response to this, can you hear me? In response to this, I've recently started using a walking belt with a sort of 3 to 5 meter line. Would you advise that in the current circumstances? Because it does tend to trail already, and when I'm trying to video as well, it becomes totally impossible. So too many things at once, I think. But what about the belt?
Yeah, it is a solution. It's definitely an option. My concern is always that you're being safe with that gathered stuff, that your dog isn't getting their legs tied up in it, and that other people are not tripping over it, and that you're not getting into the middle of it, so your dog doesn't take you out when they set off again. So yeah, long lines are a pain in the bum. It's better if you can keep the long line gathered, but you're quite right, you run out of hands quite quickly. So I like treat pouches and pockets. So if I'm wearing a treat pouch and one of these, I've now got 4 places to put it. The other thing you can have a look at is cycling jackets. I don't know if any of you have got anything to do with cycling. I used to a long time ago, don't do it so much now, you might be able to tell. But they have a pocket in the back that's a really good place to hide stuff. You've also, on a lot of jackets and jumpers, you've got a secret pocket here. One of these is a good place to hide a tug toy or a tennis ball. Yeah? You don't have to have your hands full, you can have them tucked. You can get dog walkers jackets that come with about 10 pockets, and they're all big pockets. I can't afford one of those. If anyone feels the urge to buy me one, I'd quite like one of those. What about those walking trousers that have the huge pockets on the side, on the leg as well? So stuff yourself with pockets. Hello, I'm doing a class. Dodo says it's tea time. It's not actually tea time, it's about half an hour before tea time. But he says, are we finished yet, Mum? Can we go yet? Yeah, all right. Okay, so has anyone else got any questions? If you've got worries, do get back to us. Don't just be silent. Let's make sure you all set off on the right foot. You all know what you're doing this week. You will do when you receive your homework and your PDFs. Did everybody get the copies of stuff? Thumbs up if you received everything last week, okay? Sammy, did you get a copy in the end? All right, darling, we'll make sure you get one as well. All right, okay, so we'll say goodbye, and I'll get this all out for you as soon as I can, as soon as it's saved itself. You know, depending on how fast I can process it all, we'll get it out to you. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.